First of all, thanks for coming downtown on a Tuesday night. I see Johnny Lieberman just arrived, so that means the party is officially happening. I want to thank everyone for braving LA traffic on this almost fall-like chilly evening for the global debut of the TWR Supercat. Don't call it a Jag, it's a TWR. The king of all cats, the 660 horsepower V12 supercharged manual 6-speed TWR Supercat. So, don't be shy, step right up. This is a running, driving car. Within the next 20-30 minutes, we are going to fire it up. It gets rowdy, so feel free, poke around, ask some questions, take some photos, and welcome to the TWR Supercat. So it's been a week since the global debut of the TWR Supercat. You know the one, V12, 660 horsepower, 6-speed manual, occurred right here in this exact location at my downtown LA garage. The car then went to Vegas throughout the night and spent the next 4 days at the Wynn Hotel and Casino during the F1 Grand Prix in Vegas. Naturally, whilst it was in Sin City, we couldn't resist taking it out on the strip, taking in some of the highlights, including a parade lap of the F1 racetrack, and then took it out into the desert for some moody sunset shots. The car was then driven back from Las Vegas to LA on Monday. The very next day we did a shoot with Top Gear in Angeles Crest Highway. And today, for the first time, I'm going to get to do my favorite thing, the downtown LA nighttime loop. So let's get in, put the pedal to the metal, and see how the Supercat is. TWR, Tom Wilkinson Shaw Racing, is a British motorsports racing and engineering company founded by Tom in 1976. It's currently operated in the UK by Tom's son, Fergus Walkinshaw. Now, Tom was British touring car champion in the early 80s with the Jag XJS. He won at Bathurst and would also build and develop the 1988 Le Mans winning Jag XJR9. So, the Jag XJS was in production from 1975 all the way through 1996, 21 years. And from a sales point of view, it was actually pretty successful. Apparently, Jag sold almost 120,000 XJSs, but it never lived up to the success that the E-Type had before it. The E-Type, obviously, the world's most pretty car. That was in production from 1961 all the way through late 74 and into 75, where the XJS succeeded it. Originally designed by Malcolm Sayer, the XJS, though, was plagued with problems compared to the E-Type Jag. I've owned all 3 generations of the E-Type. I've owned an XJ6, and I've owned this XJS for the past 3 years. Ironically, I did a show for Haggerty called The Next Big Thing, where I featured the XJS, and this was the actual car that I drove in that episode. The owner contacted me probably 2-3 years ago, asked would I be interested in buying the car. This was before my involvement with TWR and what became the Supercat. So the car I'm driving now is my own Jag XJS V12 3-speed automatic. I'd describe the performance as lazy. Nothing like the TWR Supercat, which takes the same block, bores it out slightly to 5.6 litre, but almost triples the horsepower to a staggering 660 horsepower with approximately 540 foot-pound of torque. TWR Supercat is certainly not lazy and commands your attention compared to this choked down 3-speed V12 automatic XJS. Meets California emissions, more of a GT cruiser car, certainly not a spirited high-performance car. But we're going to get into the TWR Supercat in more detail. I just wanted to show you what we're basing the car on. And the great thing about these XJSs is they can be acquired all day long in the $5,000 to $10,000 price range. So here it is, the donor car, the XJS. That one's a Jag. We're not going to call this one a Jag because it is the TWR Supercat. Now, my involvement in the project started almost 2 years ago. Ironically, I'd always wanted to do a hot rod XJS project. I've owned E-Types, I've owned XJ6s. I even spoke to Ian Callum when he was still at Jag back in 2018 about sort of doing an updated DTM touring car version of the iconic XJS. We even spoke to Jag Heritage and Classic about it, and they loved the idea. Sadly, it never went anywhere as Ian Callum left Jaguar somewhat thereafter. But I never gave up on the concept of doing what would become the TWR Supercat. About 2 years ago, I got a phone call from this guy, Lee Newton, former Porsche marketing guy, asking would I be involved in this TWR resurrection project of an XJS. I was brought on board as a design consultant. I had a couple of great ideas, or at least I thought they were great ideas. We were talking quite a bit, and then I brought on the Kaisel Salim, to be the head designer. So Kaisel, congratulations, man.
Thank you very much.
We've all seen the renderings, but when this thing rolled off the trailer yesterday, and it was tight in that trailer. But
yeah. I was quite surprised by the margin of error there.
Yeah, it was less than an inch.
Very close.
But when it rolled off for the first time into the California sunshine, the sun hit the paint and it sparkled.
It was quite a moment. It was the first time I've seen it outside in daylight, especially with sunlight hitting it. So just seeing it roll down, you know, low squatting, it was a very special moment. And our goal here was to create something that also had its own signature silhouette, something that could potentially be seen as iconic in the future, and building off the XJS as its original base to building something completely unique and original that now is the TWR Supercat was a very special kind of I wouldn't say challenge, because it was actually, the process was relatively quite simple and very fun as well, you know, working with yourself, but drawing from that 80s and 70s design modification and that era of design in general, your IMSA, your Trans Am, you know, you have your Koenigs, that kind of era was very, very influential, should I say.
TWR also helped design, build and develop the iconic Jag XJ220, XJ15, amongst many other awesome road cars for Aston Martin, Rover, Renault and Volvo, to name a few. By 1999, TWR had entered Formula One as the owners of the Arrows F1 team. So Fergus, why an XJS?
Oh, we kind of have different ideas of what we wanted to do as our first project, but I thought XJS, it's got a massive link to TWR, you know, for the European touring cars and the Bathurst win. So it's a really good first choice. That and the XJS is kind of a bit of an unloved classic and never really sort of met its full potential. So it's nice to sort of breathe a bit of new life into it and get the attention it probably deserved.
So John, how'd you meet Fergus?
Well, we go back a little way now. So we met about 7-8 years ago, actually. We're on a driving tour.
Okay.
Yeah, so we were traveling around Europe. I was in a R8. He was in a modified 500 SEL.
Okay.
Kind of crazy looking thing. I was in a modified R8 GT. And yeah, we kind of hit it off from there. We started working on a few projects together after the driving tour.
What were those projects? Were they Jag related? Or?
No, not necessarily. No, they weren't actually. So it was things like Camaro,
okay.
Z28 we're doing bits and bobs on, actually an Alfa Romeo 4C track car, kind of unusual projects. So Fergus was running a race team at the time,
okay.
and he was doing kind of project cars. So it was kind of a perfect little match of us working together on a few different things. And then we started looking into, well, should we do something together commercially?
Right.
And that's when the conversation started on, yeah, let's do something. And then it was a conversation of TWR. I didn't know that connection at the beginning.
Oh, you didn't know that?
No,
Okay.
but
Okay.
then found out later on it was TWR and what have you. I said, you know, what happened with TWR, and, you know, found out the history of it, etc. We looked into the TWR situation, and now we have the IP for TWR, which now we call it the next generation of TWR, Fergus being the son of Tom, and that's where we started the process. So that was 3 years ago, which then we discussed what we were going to do. XJS was kind of on the table because of, one, availability of the XJS, and two, the obvious history. You know, you've got the Le Mans victory with the Group C, but subsequent to that, next big thing really is the XJS and the European Touring Car and Bathurst.
Let's walk around it and start at the front and
I
talk
mean,
me through
as
inspiration.
well, you know, on the design, kind of working from front to back, it was a key thing that the car needs to function as well as it performs. So in that sense, it went through a lot of CFD testing as well, a lot of aero, as you know. So I'd pitch a design idea, and that would come back and slightly change, or some things might get a little bit
What are you
bigger,
talking about? Something
you know?
here?
Speaking of the front splitter here,
Yeah.
so like originally when I designed this thing, as you saw, my original design had a much rounder front splitter, and it ended a lot further up here before this carbon element begins. But working with an ex-Mercedes F1 aerodynamicist, that then came back and he's like, if you want the splitter to function properly, it needs to be longer.
Yeah.
And, you know, we went back and forth on angle,
Yeah,
how it
yeah.
should sit,
We're
how
gonna
it
find
should
out
flow.
pretty soon.
And yeah, this is what you end up with when, you know, it goes through that testing.
Does it feel any different here in downtown LA in this light, the way it's going to come through with the sun, than it did in England? And how do you feel about it? And what are your favorite parts of the car?
Well, as you know, in England, the sun is questionable at times.
Yeah.
So this is my first time seeing it outdoors in any kind of environment. Otherwise, it was indoors. It was in a studio setting.
So we're under natural lighting that's moving.
in natural light, to see this car with sun kind of hitting forms and surfaces as they should, just accentuating the lines of the car. It's quite exciting, because this is the first scenario I've seen this car outdoors. And to see it react to the way it does, to the way, like, harsh sunlight as well in particular, you know, like, you really start to see those forms come through. And then leading on to that, you know, we have rear elements of this car, which are personally the rear three-quarter of this is my favorite, I'd say. And the original XJS, it was classed as having a rear flying buttress, but it didn't. It wasn't a flying buttress. It didn't, you know, it wasn't open. So we've turned it into a functional rear flying buttress. And so my favorite thing is to be able to see
come through.
Yeah.
This feels
so
real.
This is my
real 70s, the flying buttress coming through. A lot of cars in the 70s had that sort of style.
Yeah.
Whether it was Lamborghini, you know, or a Maserati, or a Lotus, or obviously the Jag, the XJS. And ultimately, I think the XJS's biggest problem was it followed the E-Type that's sat right next to it over there, and how could it live up to that?
It never really had its time in the limelight for me, especially from a design perspective. So to kind of come back and re-energize the XJS into something that is completely new and in its own right, and hopefully also has, you know, a very identifiable silhouette.
Is this the first time you've done a full-up car?
Yes.
So that is a pretty special
It is. It's
point of your career, of the separation of going from one modified to full build.
You know, my background is within the game industry, kind of coming from that, working at
Virtual
EA Games, working on Need for Speed for 4 years, kind of to go from that and then starting my own body kit company to then building a car like this that has the heritage and the name of TWR behind it.
And heritage is important. The people I've been telling about this project who may not know who TWR is, once I explain it to them, it's a heritage motorsports brand with actual race pedigree and history. Not just with Jag, with Volvo and Renault and other people.
Exactly, and it's my favorite way to work. I've worked with Subaru and you know, working them and kind of building the Travis Pastrana Gymkhana cars.
Yeah.
And you've seen that thing go up the hill at Goodwood, you know. So to kind of have this opportunity to build a car that performs and looks the way it does, and to be given that opportunity it's a very special moment. And you know, it's just slightly terrifying in that aspect that it's here, it's a real thing, and it's kind of the first for me to kind of, you know, like I said, it's a love it or hate it thing, and I'm okay with that, you know.
Being terrified is not a bad thing, let me tell you. You know, when you wake up kind of scared and afraid, that to me is a good thing. It means you're on the right track. And I feel the work you did here is going to inspire other people.
I hope so.
Because the way you went is kind of the way I went in a way. You don't need to go to school to learn design.
Yeah.
The idea is the most important thing, and that idea can't be taught. We know where the inspiration came from, but you threw that in a melting pot and came out with something we all did together based on your vision that had never been done before with an XJS. And that's an inspiring, motivational place to be. So I thank you for that, because you got me out of my box of being that guy who plays around with those things called Porsches. But my love of cars had always been, I've always been a Jag guy. Now I'm a TWR guy.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, I was saying the other day, I drove this with Daryl Franchitti in the Gordon Murray T50, and everyone knows the McLaren F1, right? Yeah. But in reality, I feel we were all Gordon Murray fans, really. We're McLaren fans, but it's Gordon Murray, right? Absolutely. And you to me are in that category here with this car. I'm not going to put any pressure on you, but I've said it, so there it is. Anyway, moving on. Walk me through this 5.6 litre V12 supercharged work of art that pumps out 660 horsepower?
Yeah, 660 horsepower.
Can we get to 666, the number of the beast? To me, that just seems right. It's an Iron Maiden thing. It just feels right, the number of the beast, 666. How much torque has this thing got?
730 newtons.
No way. Tell me about the power delivery, and then let's get into how you're getting this much power out of this block.
Yeah, so power delivery, we spent a lot of time trying to get the feel and the delivery right, because it's all well and good making that power as a peak number, but if it's
unusable.
If it's got nothing on the low end, and then suddenly there's a big wallop of power right at the top where you're only going to use it if you're on track. Right. That's not road drivable.
This is my pet peeve with a lot of cars. Unusable power that's only obtainable at 9,000 RPM or 11,000 RPM. I'm like, who's spending any time there? It has to be this transition from idle to throttle response, stop and go traffic to full tilt boogie and usable power, right?
Yeah, so the way we've got it now is that you can to drive around cruising at 1100 RPM, it's perfectly happy. You can roll into the throttle and it'll just pick up speed, or you can actually rev it all the way out to 750 red line and absolutely blast it down a B road.
Let's talk about how we're getting to what we're looking at here. What is original to the Jag over there? So, the block, the case, what are we talking about?
So the block, the cylinder heads and the crankshaft we actually retain. The block we remachine and use different liners. Okay. And then obviously the bottom end is new rotating assembly. So it's new forged pistons and rods to our spec. The cylinder heads, we actually remachine the combustion chambers and the ports. The original design being this sort of HE high efficiency cylinder heads. They gave it a little bit better fuel economy in period, but they're awful for power. So we've redesigned those and did a load of head work on them. We've also got fully lightened valve train, so way lighter valves, double valve springs, titanium retainers, billet camshafts, which is how you get the sort of snappy response, and we've been able to up the rev limit so far is keeping that valve control as good as possible.
Let's talk about cooling. I know it was a challenge.
Yeah, cooling was a big task. I mean, these engines as standard, they did run hot, and they struggled with cooling in hot climates. So if you're in Texas or something like that, you'd struggle with a standard car. What we've done is we've got a large central radiator. We've then got
dual fan that I see.
Yeah, and two more auxiliary radiators in the bumper corners. We've then also got the Supercharger oil cooler down there, aircon rad of course, charge cooler pre-rad, and then to keep the oil temperatures in check, we've got a water to oil heat exchanger down there as well.
Wow, wow. So are you actually generating enough heat, or are you running too cool? Where are we at here?
When we were doing the testing, we kept going larger and larger and larger, and we actually reached the point where on the colder test days, we were having to slow the water pump down to bring the temperatures up. So we knew we've got a cooling package at the front that will deal with all scenarios, and then we can control exactly where the temperature stays.
Awesome,
electronically.
awesome. So let's talk about components of suspension setup.
Yeah,
Walk me through that.
Suspension setup, the front and rear subframes are completely new and bespoke to this car. We designed it in-house. It's got tubular front arms, double wishbone, which is similar to the standard design but with revised geometry. So it's got better handling characteristics, better bump steer, and just generally it'll handle different road situations a lot nicer. The rear, the original setup was a bit of an odd one, where the drive shaft was a structural member. It actually controlled the camber.
Okay, interesting.
That's, yeah, unusual. There's a reason it's unusual, I think, because it's
What
less
does it have
than ideal.
now?
So gone to a multi-link rear suspension design in it now, which again, with the increase in width, allows us to get much better geometry and keep the grip on the rear end.
Keep the power to the ground. Talk me through ergonomically what's going on here with the center console.
Yeah, so you want to keep everything driver focused, and everything's really to hand. So anything you need, you can get to. You're not having to search around and look for it. All the information you're going to need is on the display. On the screen, you've got your normal sort of engine parameters, and then you can also scroll through it to be able to see what settings those knobs are at.
What are these three knobs doing? Suspension?
So you've got your suspension stiffness.
Yeah.
You've got your drive modes,
Yeah.
which can firm up the steering, adjust your throttle mapping, so it makes it either more comfort setting or more sporty for track use.
What is the difference in the feel of the steering from comfort to track use when you firm it up? How does that work?
It's because it's electronic power steering.
Yeah.
We can vary the amount of assist it gives.
Okay.
I think with all settings, it's above about 60 miles an hour, it's completely off.
Okay.
But changing on those settings adjusts that down and it scales it.
And then the third one here?
Third one there,
traction?
that's traction control.
How does that work in this car?
So we've got 4 levels of traction and completely turned off.
Okay.
We've got that, it just allows a set amount of wheel slip before it interferes.
Okay.
And you can then tune that to either the conditions or your preference.
Got it. Talk me through this wonderful billet piece of machined aluminum on this 6-speed shift knob. What is the gearbox?
The gearbox is a Tremec
Okay.
6-speed. We chose that one as we know it can handle the torque that we're putting out from the V12.
The interesting thing for me about this car yesterday, when it was sat here and the sunlight moved around and you started to see shadows forming, it really pops in a certain light, like right here, this line, seam, crease. You know, it just really defines that taut muscular
And then again,
coming in and then going out again.
And then you almost, you can see that hourglass kind of shape, and that's accentuated when you look at it from above or, top down.
The greatest thing is nothing's out of proportion with it. Nothing is out of proportion.
No. Still retaining original XJS elements, door handles.
Right. Steering wheel.
Yeah, steering wheel. I mean, our final one will be slightly smaller than this again.
This is a 370 millimeter.
The driving experience, but yeah.
It is clean, it is functional. The pedal cluster, the steering wheel, it's got a tilt and pedal cluster box, adjustable tilt steering wheel. rake.
It's also your spec.
Well, yeah, this Oxblood cricket ball. I'll tell you where that came from. When I was asked to spec the car, one of my favorite shoes before I started wearing my Nikes was Oxblood Doc Martens. I don't play cricket, but I had several pairs of Oxblood Doc Martens that when they break in, to me it's just traditional,
Yeah.
but fits the car. It's understated elegance. It ties in with like a Savile Row suit, British Bulldog. It's authentic, it's genuine, it's not too garish, and it's not my pet peeve of 18 different combination of tactile things you're gonna touch. It's less is more, it's form and function.
Exactly.
I mean, and then this back here, let's pop
Space.
that. Let's pop the space on the back trunk.
I mean,
Let's
at the
pop
end
that.
of the day, this is a full GT car.
Yeah, full touring car. So this bit got me right here. Like you're going away for the weekend, or you're skiing, or you're playing golf.
Yeah.
I mean, the fit and finish here is really, really impressive with the amount of space. You know, if you want to go grocery shopping.
Exactly, or cross country even.
Yeah,
you know,
for sure.
4 suitcases.
Road
you can fit
tripping.
them in there, which I think was a slight issue on the original.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. I've got a funny story where Hannah and I were up at Monterey Historic Car Week in a Jag not too many years ago, and we couldn't get both of our luggage in the car. We were driving back from Monterey to LA in a new 4 or 5 years ago Jag. I won't say what it was, but we literally couldn't get our luggage in it to come back home and go, this just kind of sucks, right? We've done a lot of road trips in fancy cars,
Of course.
Lamborghinis, and ironically, you turned up in a Lotus today, which
I did.
actually has quite a lot of usable luggage space.
Inside as well. I mean, I have room to spare in there.
But most sort of supercars, hypercars don't. And this to me is the happy medium across the board of performance, but usability.
Yeah.
Usable
Yeah,
performance. What is great for me about this is the simplicity of, we've got some matte black, we've got some carbon, but it's not overkill. It's not plastic. There's not a bunch of plasticky front bumper diffuser cooling ducts that other people put on cars. It's got just the right, there's no bright work on it, which I like. I don't need to see aluminum trim, chrome trim, none of that. This to me is like the perfect exterior combo, which would look good in any color. Ice green metallic, British Racing green, Irish green, copper brown metallic, whatever.
I've experimented with this as well. I haven't found a color at the moment that it doesn't work in.
Let's talk about wheels, because I know the round, the roll, they look cool. It took quite some time to get to this design on the wheel.
I mean, you know, designing the exterior of the car is one thing, but it needs to sit on something that matches. And these kind of wheels were originally inspired by the original XJS kind of, you know, multi-spoke wheels, but to try and modernize them in a way. So we worked together with HRE to kind of, you know, I gave them an idea, they came back with some options, and then kind of we tweaked and went back and forth on that, and we came out with this. You know, it's more concave, but it's also slightly turbofan-esque as well.
Yeah,
you know,
I see like turbofan here in it.
The kind of the lip here and everything. So it's a wheel that, for me personally, and I think hopefully you'd agree, that suits the car.
For sure. So to wrap up the West Coast debut of the TWR Supercat, I was invited to display the car for the final weekend of the LA Auto Show, which just happened to be over Thanksgiving Day weekend. So I drove the car right into the LA Convention Center and literally backed it right up onto the all-road stage ramp where it would be for the final weekend. Guys on the line were there on hand to give out some posters, meet some people, get some feedback, and sign a bunch of posters. And did this exceed your expectations of the dream you had, the finished product?
Yeah, I think it's exceeded my expectations. This is obviously our first full prototype with all the bodywork, the interior. because the test car was just the running gear and
Got it.
none of the niceties.
That was really the Mad Max version.
That's the Mad Max car,
Yeah.
yeah. This car, I would say, is probably 95% of the way to the final product for a customer car. And I know where we need to make little tweaks and adjustments. But yeah, I mean, I was really happy with how this turned out, and I think it's a great thing.
I got to tell you, you've created something which is going to be an iconic silhouette. You look at a Countach, in a way, you look at a Vector, you can throw other things in, you go, this is a period of time right now in 2024 when I'm going to say it right now, this is a landmark build for you, for me, for TWR. Tell me how you feel about that.
It's terrifying for me in a sense that I'm not a traditional designer. My background isn't necessarily, I didn't study this. It's purely come from passion and a hobby to kind of just keep myself
Creatively occupied.
inspired. Yeah, to keep myself inspired.
From someone who I've got a large collection of cars, as do you, I wanted something that did fulfill all of those elements, and it didn't exist in my collection.
Right.
And I, as far as I could work out, it didn't exist in the world of automotive, and so this has fulfilled all of those points.
It's a standout car in a sea of standout cars,
Yep.
for sure. When this arrives at places, it's making a statement.
Without a doubt.
When people see it on the road, their heads turn, because it's like something from outer space. It's like you said, it's not a throwback, but it is part of a throwback, as Keisel said. It's influence on IMSA and Group B and everything we've talked about, but it's really unique, but still does maintain that silhouette of the XJS over there. And we know it's not a Jag, we know it's a TWR,
Yeah.
and we're proud of that, right?
Yeah.
And bringing this historical heritage motorsports engineering firm back with Fergus, ahead of development. For me, I'm proud to be a part of this project. So I thank you for putting up with me, including me in it.
No, you've been brilliant. We've been going back and forth with you for the last couple of years, and it's been great, the whole interaction between the team. And, ultimately the proof is in the pudding, as they would say. And this is, the mixture of everybody's skills that come together to create this thing. And you were a big involvement in
Well, I
that. So
appreciate
thank
that.
you very much.